Hello, my name is Rich Wildman. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you to David Leonard and Shelley Ambrose and their colleagues at the Walrus Foundation, as well as Leslie DeBee and Peter Engler and Quest University Canada for having me here. I'm a professor at nearby Quest University Canada, and I teach classes in chemistry and environmental science and persuasive writing and statistics. Technically speaking, this is what I get paid to do. However, my work is better described by a witticism of one of my colleagues, Bob Perkins. He says, "I don't get paid to teach. That stuff's fun, and I do it for free. I get paid to grade." Generating grades takes up a lot of my time, and grading matters to my students too. For our purposes, psychology research surrounding grades suggests that grades are a reward and punishment structure that we teachers use to get students to do things that we want them to do. If there's a late penalty on turning in an assignment, students will stay up all night to get it in on time. If there's not, they won't. If a higher grade goes to those who draw a picture to support their ideas, then many will draw the picture, and if there isn't, they don't. In my courses, this led to some problems. Students underperformed in the parts of class that weren't graded. As one example, class discussions were weak when students are tired because there's no incentive to listen carefully and make insightful comments. What's more, students only learn the material that's on the assignment. If I ask 8 questions, they'll answer 8 questions. Then they're done. When they're done fulfilling a grading rubric, learning stops. So last spring, in my 30th course at Quest, I stopped grading homework assignments. Now, with few exceptions, narrative evaluations determine the overall grades for my courses. The major exception is chemistry, in which half of the course still comes from traditional chemistry tests, and the other half is from narrative evaluations. So how do these narrative evaluations work? How do you get a good grade in one of my classes? The basic idea is that students are now graded on all interactions with me. So their contributions in class discussions, the emails they might write me asking for help, what they say in my office after class ends, and the quality of their written assignments are all fair game. They need to be great all the time. They must find a way to show me what they know. There are some questions of different learning styles and personalities, as well as some issues of bias that I've worked out. Those are for a different talk. This has led class to be far more satisfying. But it has also created an interesting new dimension that I want to bring up tonight. To succeed in my new system, students need to show off what they know. Is this a problem? Am I forcing them to brag? I'll skip a long story. Suffice to say that I come from cultures in which bragging is no big deal. Here in Canada and at Quest, it's different. I learned right away not to tout my accomplishments in front of students who called me arrogant for doing so. When I was talking to a colleague about this, she looked at me as though I had just stated the obvious and said, "I usually try to make the students look smart and leave myself out of it." I've had colleagues tell me that they're afraid of describing their accomplishments to their peers, even something large that takes a lot of effort, like publishing a new book, for fear of making other colleagues feel bad. This phenomenon is not just limited to one type of person in my life, and I'm not the only one to observe it. According to the magazine Canadian Business, a recent survey by LinkedIn found that only 29% of Canadians feel comfortable talking about their achievements at work, and 53% admitted that doing so sounds like bragging to them. I think we all know the reason why. A braggart sounds better than those around him or her, thus making them appear lower. The effect is the same as overtly putting people down, and so we all believe that it's rude to brag. Let me tell you another story. When I was a graduate student, a senior student had recently landed a prestigious and coveted faculty position. I asked him what he had done to earn it. He simply would not answer, saying that the job market is all a crapshoot, that it's all about fit, that he has been very fortunate in life. Maybe so, I said, but professorships aren't given out at random. You must have done a lot right. What did you do? He looked at me and declared flatly, "Rich, I am not going to toot my own horn." The problem is, answering my question helpfully wouldn't have been bragging because he wouldn't have been making himself seem better than me. It's obvious that he had succeeded in specific ways that I hadn't, and I wanted to learn from him. My colleague did me a disservice, and so I don't pass that disservice on to my students and my colleagues. I don't hide that I've done a couple multi-year research projects on large reservoirs, that I have extensive training in statistics, that I was a decorated university varsity athlete. I tell them what I can do well and what I've accomplished. Quest students are worryingly bad at plainly saying to each other, like I did to you just now, this is what I can do. This matters. Without an honest reporting of what we do well, which I believe is not bragging, the struggling students never find out the habits of the successful ones. Everyone but me misses out on the neat ideas that students write into their papers. And they're less able to get jobs. Yes, it's widely understood among human resources professionals that the inability to truthfully and accurately promote oneself is a major impediment to landing a job following an interview. In fact, the title and the subtitle of the Canadian business article I quoted are, "Canadians harm our careers because we're afraid of bragging," and "Employers are looking for candidates who can sell their skills, but many Canadians say they just aren't comfortable doing it." The social stigma against bragging is so strong that it prevents non-judgmental, meaningful exchanges about ourselves. I set out to de-emphasize grading in my courses, to invest in students' intrinsic desires to learn. But my innovation of grading with narrative evaluations is also training my students to navigate the difficult social balance between bragging and reporting honestly about who they are. This training will do far more to prepare them for the true successes of real life, like pleasing a client, delivering value to shareholders, gaining the trust of a colleague, or seeing new possibilities for collaboration with their peers. With this in mind, I'll end with some questions. In your personal and professional lives, where is the line between useful self-promotion and bragging? Are you honest about the gifts and talents you bring to our society? Do you self-promote enough? After all, none of you have a homework assignment that you'll be turning in to me to grade on Monday. And so how will I ever know the value that each of you contribute to our world? Thank you.